Welcome to AP and DP, SEC ACC conference coverage. I'm AP Stedham, multimedia personality from LA, Lower Alabama, along with my co-host, DP, former University of California defensive back extraordinaire, Doug Parrish. DP. Hey, DP.
Hi, AP. It's so good to be with you. This is week 11, man. I'm so excited. A lot of great things are happening in college football.
I'm glad you reminded me. I lost track. We're having so much fun.
We got a whole lot to talk about this week, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, there's games that's so exciting. And now we have the college football playoff announcement that took place this week. You had a few comments you wanted to make about the college football playoff rankings.
AP, here's a little trivia for you. The first football game was played back in 1869. Guess who played? Okay, Rutgers played against Princeton. Hey, but guess what? That was a long time ago, right? But now we have something that is the inaugural, right? That means the first time out the gate. And guess what that is? That's the college football playoff rankings. The inaugural season of this thing is all kicking off, man. And look, when we were down at the ACC Media Days, we met with Lieutenant General Richard Clark. You know him. He's the executive director of the college football playoffs. Man, he had an awesome time to just go on ESPN the other day and talk about the 12 teams that have made it to the first round of the college football playoffs. Guess what, AP? A lot of great teams in your neck of the woods in the SEC. I gotta tip my hat. I gotta tip my hat, man. The SEC has several teams in the college football playoffs. I'll let you jump on that in a second. But from the ACC perspective, we have only one, and that's that Cam Ward, the Miami Hurricanes down in South Beach, man, hanging out down there on the beach. Those guys are slinging the rock all over the place and winning games, AP. And guess what? They're great teams that they've compiled into the 12 categories, right? And so you just got to love it. It's exciting. It's a new venture. Everyone is jumping around, having a good time. And guess what, AP? Not only is there the college football playoffs, but you have the ACC conference championship stuff kind of molding together and the SEC championship. Who's going to find their way in Atlanta in January? I'm looking forward to it. SEC has 8 teams in the AP, your cousin, AP, AP top 25. You got 8 teams. The ACC has 5 teams that are ranked in the top 25. AP, we couldn't be in a better space right now in this time, right? These 2 conferences that we are covering this whole year are the 2 heavyweight teams in college football. They are the elite teams. Now let's get into week 11 and see what you guys got cooking over there in the SEC.
Yeah, I'm excited already. Put me in, coach. Hey, Doug, we're going to take a look at this first game, and you're looking at Florida. Who's struggling this year. You know, they had some injuries at the quarterback position. I covered that Florida-Georgia game last week. DJ Lagway, the outstanding freshman, got hurt early in the ball game. He was the substitute for Graham Mertz, who hadn't played in the game because he was injured prior to last week. So they had to put in the third-string quarterback. But anyway, they lost to Georgia 34-20. They're sitting at 4-4, 2-3. They're going to play the Texas Longhorns, which had a bye last week. Texas 7-1, 3-1 on the year, number 5 overall in the college football playoff. Texas is a 21.5-point favorite. Doug, this series, not many games. 2 games for Texas they won, and there was a tie in this series as well. It's only 3 games in this series. And Doug, when you think of these states, the first thing that comes to mind, Texas, 1,000+ high schools playing football, a lot of talent, every conference in the country. Think about that. Every conference in the country recruits that state. Florida, almost the same. With Florida has so much talent. But so right now, you know, Texas leads in a lot of categories. They have some good numbers. Number 2 defensively in scoring. Number 16 on the offensive side in scoring. They're number 11 in interceptions, sacks 28, tackles for loss 19, and they're in the turnover margin. They're number 40 in the country at 0.38. Offensively, Florida at 57. Defensively, the scoring 72. So they're still building that team. Their sack numbers 37th in the country, 69th in turnovers. It's even 0-0. So I'm looking for Texas to win this ball game. They're trying to be that contender in the 12-game playoff situation that you mentioned, the inaugural 12 teams in the playoff. So we'll move on to the next game. Mississippi State struggling, 2-7, 0-5 in the conference, 23.5-point underdog to Tennessee, the number 7 team in the college football playoff rankings, 7-1, 4-1 in the conference. They had a bye. Mississippi State coming off a win over UMass, 45-20. This series, Doug, 29 for Tennessee, 16 for Mississippi State, 1 tie. Mississippi State, Doug, they're 64th in scoring, 121 in scoring defense. They're near the bottom. Tennessee offensively is number 12 scoring, number 5 defensively in scoring. They're 9th in tackles for loss. So Tennessee, just like Texas, they're trying to contend for that 12-team playoff run. And so I think the Volunteers will take care of business. We know Nika Iamaleava, he's been playing so-so throughout the season. I don't think he's grasped that offense. He hasn't shown the ability to be as accurate as advertised, I don't think. And then Michael Van Buren Jr. is the freshman out of the Baltimore area for Mississippi State. He's taking over for the transfer from Baylor who was injured earlier in the season. So 2 big favorites, Tennessee and Texas, they'll probably win. They're both playing at home.
Gotcha. Hey, we got Syracuse at BC. Now, Syracuse is 6-2. They're 3-2 in the ACC, AP. And BC is 4-4, and they're 1-3 in the ACC conference. This is an early game, AP. Now, I don't know about you, AP, but when I was in college, man, I wasn't getting up at 11 o'clock in the morning to play a football game. These guys are playing at 11 a.m. Hey, early. I don't know, man. I think it's all about those TV contracts and trying to merge as many awesome, amazing college football games as they can on TV, man. So that's a big part of it, AP. But breaking down each of these teams, I would categorize both of these teams as they are trying to remain relevant in the ACC, right?
Yes.
I mean, look at Syracuse, right? They beat up on Virginia Tech last time. Syracuse head coach Fran Brown, he's been one of those colleges, or one of those coaches, I should say, that is just trying to will his team to victory in a lot of these matchups. The star of the game, last game, was LaQuint Allen. Now, this running back, AP, you'll like this guy. He scored 3 touchdowns against Virginia Tech last week. He was absolutely phenomenal. He scored a touchdown that allowed Syracuse, right, to stay in the game, to put the game into overtime. And this kid literally kept running him. And hey, why not? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Keep giving him the ball. And Fran Brown, he did that. He gave him the ball. They ended up with a 38-31 victory. You can't say enough about the young man. He seems like he's going to have a bright future, AP, and I'm looking forward to potentially seeing him in one of the leagues in the future, the NFL or the UFL. He's a 200-pound junior. He's got 130 carries already for 602 yards, and he's got 7 TDs. Now, AP, you can't mention Syracuse without their star quarterback. He's their field general. You got to talk about Kyle McCord. He's a 6'3", 225-pound senior. He's thrown for 2,761 yards. Isn't that amazing? And guess what? He's got 21 touchdowns to go along with it. My take on this, AP, just from me, little old boy from Alabama, but I think I think Syracuse will come out and victorious, and I'm looking for them to continue on with their momentum. Now, shifting gears to my second game, AP, I got Cal Berkeley, my alma mater, against Wake Forest. I will be at that game, so I'm traveling this evening. Get there because they play tomorrow, AP. They don't play on Saturday. Again, this TV situation, shifting teams around. But, hey, Cal is coming across the country to play in North Carolina And I don't think that I know actually from my research, they have never played each other, AP. This is going to be a really good game. Look, 4-4, and Cal Berkeley is 4-4. They're coming off of a bye. They want to have some more consistency so that they can get a shot at a bowl game. Now, last year, Cal went to a bowl game. Wake Forest is coming off a bye week win, right? They narrowly beat Stanford 27-24 last week. So, AP, I will be at this game. This is the first time that, I will be in Winston-Salem. This is the first for a lot of us, right? And it's Cal's first time ever facing Winston-Salem and Wake Forest. The players to watch for me, though, in this game are the quarterbacks. My guy, Fernando Mendoza, he's got a 68% completion rate. Right now, he has 2,000 yards, over 2,000 yards passing. I'm pretty impressed by that, too. But he has, he's got some consistency over the last 3 games, AP. He's got over 300 yards per game, over the last 3 games. So that's pretty cool. Now, a guy that you love on the flip side of the ball, Hank Bachmeier. We met his parents, right? You introduced me to him, AP. AP, yeah. A lot of people know who you are, so, I'm not surprised. But they're very nice people. He comes from a nice family. Hank Bachmeier has a 62.7 completion percentage. He's thrown over 1,900 yards of the season, AP. And guess what? He has 12 TDs to go along with it. And he has, the last 3 games for him, he's been throwing the ball over 215 yards per game. So both of these quarterbacks are going to be pretty interesting to check out. Now they're going to be throwing the ball to some pretty dynamic receivers, Jack Indris for Cal. And then, Bachmeier will be throwing to his favorite receiver, Taylor Moran. He's got 39 receptions for 496 yards and a TD. And Coach Justin Wilcox is just looking to garner his first AC win, AP. He's got to get a W in the ACC, and he needs to break into the winning column, and hopefully he can do it and get back to the Bay Area with a victory, and that'll be a nice flight home for them.
A long flight across the country if they win. But, yeah, I'll be interested in watching both of those quarterbacks. We met them this season. So, yes. So I'm looking forward to that ball game on Friday night. Doug, we're going to delve into the Oklahoma versus Missouri game. These are 2 rivals, Doug, from the Pac-8 way back. I mean the Big 8 way back, and then the Big 12, and now they're in the SEC together. There's not a lot of good feeling. There's some bad blood between Oklahoma and Mizzou, these states that are border states. But Oklahoma coming off a 59-14 win over Maine. They're 5-4, 1-4 in the conference, and they're playing Mizzou, which is 6-2, 2-2 in the conference. They had a bye. Doug, this is a strange game because Oklahoma at Mizzou. Oklahoma not ranked. Mizzou 24th ranked. Oklahoma is a 2.5-point favorite. Think about that. Yeah. On the road in the SEC, not ranked. You're a 2.5-point favorite. That's because Mizzou is not certain about the health of their quarterback, Brady Cook. Wow. So, last time they put Drew Pine in there, and he threw 2 or 3 interceptions, and Brady Cook came off the bench. So anyway, that series is 67 for Oklahoma, 24 wins for Mizzou, and 5 ties. Now, Oklahoma, Doug, 88th in scoring offensively. Their total offense is 112, Doug. 112 in the country, very low. Their scoring defense is pretty good at 30, but that defense has been on the field quite a bit this season, and I'm sure they're worn down. Their sacks, number 9. Their tackles for loss, number 7 for Oklahoma. Mizzou offensively scoring 70. Their defense is ranked 17th in scoring. So they have those trio of receivers, Luther Burden III, Cooper and Weiss as well. So, but I'm not sure about that defensive number because they've had 2 bad defensive games, Doug. They gave up 41 points on the road to Texas A&M in a 41-10 loss. Then they gave up 34 to Tuscaloosa, 34-0. They lost to Alabama. So even though that scoring defense is rated 17th in the country, it's a little bit shaky in my mind. I don't think it's as good as advertised.
Sure.
So, but I don't know. Good. It'll be a good ball game. 2 teams with a lot of history. Like I said, Oklahoma's the favorite on the road. Interesting. Now we head to South Carolina versus Vanderbilt. Doug, we started the season. No one thought this game would be important because Vanderbilt hadn't won a game last year in the conference.
Right.
Vanderbilt sitting at 6-3, 3-2 in the conference. They're coming off a win, double digits over Auburn, 17-7 on the road.
Wow.
And we know that Diego Pavia, that's the third time he beat Auburn's head coach Hugh Freeze. Once when he was at New Mexico State, played Liberty, and then New Mexico State visited Auburn last year on the road, beat him by 3 touchdowns, 31-10, and now he beat Auburn and Hugh Freeze again by double digits. That's incredible. That's incredible. So that series between South Carolina and Vanderbilt is 29 wins for South Carolina, only 4 for Vanderbilt. South Carolina is 5-3, 3-3 in the conference, 3.5-point favorite. Doug, they had a sensational win. One of their better victories, beating unbeaten in the conference, Texas A&M, 44-20. A&M has a pretty good defense. They put 44 points on them and held them to 20 with a high score, 20 all, and they ended up with their big victory, 24 points. So South Carolina, their scoring offense 40, their defense scoring is 20, pretty good. Interceptions 14, sacks third in the country, tackles for loss 8, 30th on the turnovers. Vanderbilt, and they both have inverted numbers, Doug, on the offense. The total offense for South Carolina is 91, I think, 91. But, Doug, their scoring is 49. That's a great number. It's inverted, okay? Vanderbilt, offensively, 107. Total offense, 107. Scoring, 52. That's 50 points better than their total scoring.
Sure.
Total offense, I mean. All right, defensively, Vanderbilt's at 30. That's a good number. Vanderbilt last year, Doug, they couldn't guard anybody in warm-ups. They just gave up so many points. Now they're on solid footing. Clark Lee's making those calls as the head coach. He's a defensive coach. He's been a DC many, for schools across the country. 40 sacks. They're 40th in sacks. Turnovers 25th. So both teams are good on the turnovers. 30 for South Carolina, 25 for Vanderbilt. But this will be a good ball game. South Carolina on the road in Nashville, 3.5-point favorite. That's a tough ball game. Tough ball game for Carolina because Vanderbilt, they're a good team.
Yeah,
they have a winning quarterback. Lenora Sellers from South Carolina, very talented. He's playing very well, and he's getting better by the week. But those are 2 more games in the SEC, Doug. Back to you.
Man, if you got a good quarterback, you have a good percentage of chance to win in any ball game. Great chance of winning. Now, listen, AP, I went to Clemson for the first time last week. Hanging out with you, man, I went from 0 to 100. I'm telling you, man, I've been all over the country. I went down to what they call Death Valley. I saw The Rock. You know how they come down and all of the players love The Rock. Man,
That's right.
They have it all enclosed now because I guess somebody was tinkering with it, so they want to protect There's a whole lot of history going on. Military type of school. It was great. I mean, Clemson's looking to get back on track. They had a really, really difficult time trying to hold off Louisville last week, and it was very, very an impressive showcase of defensive skills and scheme and tenacity by the Louisville team. So I want to give credit to Ron English, one of my former teammates at Cal Berkeley. He's now the defensive coordinator running the show over there on the defensive side of the ball for Louisville. And they came in there. They had the momentum going. It was a back and forth game going back and forth, but Clemson just couldn't they couldn't fire on all cylinders at some point. They couldn't get off the field. So the defense was tired. So now they're going to have to recalibrate right now and try to get a win so that they can maintain their position as one of the potential elite teams in the ACC. Now, the AP poll, the rankings, they still have them at number 23. They're 6-2. They're 5-1. Virginia Tech, who they're going to be playing, they're 5-4, and they're 3-2 in the conference. But this is a must-win for Clemson. They need to win this game so that they can stay on pace to get a at-large bid in the college football playoffs as well. We talked about that before. And look, the big matchup is going to be this quarterback, Cade Klubnik, right? He needs to get Clemson some explosive plays. Now, typically, this quarterback and their wide receivers, they have explosive plays. Now, when I say explosive plays, I'm talking about plays beyond 15 yards and so on and so forth, whether they're running or passing. But they need some big plays, AP. But the Hokies, led by Kyron Drones, he missed a few games. And then against Syracuse, he had an injury. But he has over 1,447 yards passing on the season with 323 yards rushing and 16 touchdowns. Now, if he's out of the game, AP, they're going to put in Colin Slee, who will take his place. But the Hokies running back, Bashal Tuden, as I keep talking about him every week, he's the ACC rushing leader. He's got 951 yards and 12 touchdowns. Now, defensively, which I love the most, Virginia Tech is led by defensive end and defensive lineman Antoine Pyle, and he led the nation. He's leading the nation, AP, with 12 sacks.
12 sacks.
Man, you got to love it. Now, the Hokies allow 22 points per game. That's fourth fewest in the ACC, and they have 363 yards, AP, per game. So that's the eighth fewest in the country. Very stingy defense. So Clemson, if they're not firing on all cylinders, as I talked about before, this could be a very interesting matchup. But big plays are the key for Clemson, and they need to get a victory so that they can go back to Death Valley and have a victory. Now, my second game is North Carolina State. They're hosting Duke. Sounds like a basketball game in the ACC, I know. But look, this is an in-state rival game, so to speak. This is for bragging rights, AP. Duke is 6-3, 2-3 in the ACC. North Carolina State is 5-4, 2-3. To some of the highlights I'm going to be looking for in this game, AP, is like, can Duke bounce back? They've lost 2 straight games, right? And so they need to get they lost against SMU, who is a surprise sleep horse, right? And they lost against Miami. Those are their 2 losses, but they need to bounce back if they want to remain bowl eligible, right? So around the time of the season, everybody wants to get that 6th, 7th win so they can get into those good bowl games. It's beneficial for the schools, beneficial for the coaches, et cetera, et cetera. But the Blue Devils are number 2 nationally in tackles for losses, man. So they're going to have their hands cut out in terms of trying to move the ball. Now, the players to watch is quarterback Malik Murphy. You know him. He's the Texas transfer, AP, and he has 20 touchdowns this year already. He's completing about 50 to 60% of his passes, and he's throwing the ball to wide receiver Concepcion, KC Concepcion. North Carolina State will be throwing the ball to wide receiver KC Concepcion. Now, he had a big game against Stanford, so he's going to keep that momentum going. Now, in my humble opinion, this 6'5", 230-pound sophomore, Malik Murphy from Inglewood, California, he needs to play like the starter he is, AP. And Duke's coach, we talked about him last week, Manny Diaz, oh, by the way, he worked at North Carolina State back in the day, which you may be familiar with under Chuck Amato as an assistant coach. Now, he's going to have to call a masterful game against the 10th year head coach, Dave Doran of North Carolina State. Yeah, in order to be successful. Those are my 2, AP.
Yeah, Malik Murphy. That was an interesting transfer we mentioned through the season. Sure. Coming from California via University of Texas, I think Duke was fortunate to land him in the transfer portal. Hey, Doug, we're going to finish up with the last 2 big games, nationally ranked teams. Number 11, Alabama versus number 15, LSU down in the Bayou, Baton Rouge. Alabama 6-2, 3-2 in the conference. LSU 6-2, 3-1. So this is a knockout game because the team who loses probably be out of the playoffs. They will have 3 losses, and that will keep them out of the college football playoff. It'll put them in some nice bowls, of course, but it'll knock them out of the playoffs. Alabama on the road will be a 2.5-point favorite. They've been on the road a couple times this season, lost at Vanderbilt, lost at Tennessee. Alabama's offense is scoring offense 16, scoring defense 19, interceptions 14th in the country, turnovers number 16 at .88. So those are some good numbers. LSU is 34th in scoring, defensively 54th. They're number 6 in sacks in the country. But LSU, Doug, they have trouble with the dual threat quarterback. And Jalen Milroe had 155 yards, I think, rushing last year in Tuscaloosa against the Bayou Bengals. Alabama, they've had their moments not being able to stop the rush as well. A couple of teams had over 130 yards against them, I guess. LSU does not run the ball very well, Doug. They're 111th in the country, but they've had a game or two where the running backs, I think, had 100 yards. So, Doug, in this game of chess, which coach thinks that running is the appropriate thing to try against these two defenses?
Yeah.
Is Alabama going to let Jalen Milroe run around in that pocket and say, look, take the snap and look down the field. If you don't see anything, take off, because I think you could do some damage with your legs against this LSU defense, because they've not shown the capability at this point to stop that dual threat quarterback. So it'll be a great ball game, night ball game. Looking forward to this. The series, Doug, 56 for Alabama, 27 for LSU, 5 ties in the series. So Alabama's a commanding lead in the series.
Sure.
We're gonna finish up with number 3 Georgia.
You'll be there though, AP, right?
I'll be in Baton Rouge for the Alabama LSU game. I look forward to Saturday night in Baton Rouge.
There you go. You gotta love it, baby.
Great atmosphere down in the Bayou. Then we're gonna move on to number 3 Georgia, Doug, and I'm using the college football playoff rankings. Faces number 16 Ole Miss. Georgia's a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Georgia's 7-1, 5-1 in the conference. They're coming off that victory, as we discussed, over Florida and Jacksonville, 34-20. Come from behind victory, matter of fact. Ole Miss 7-2, 3-2. They beat Arkansas, Doug, in Fayetteville, 63-31. Yes, that's what I said. I said 63-31. Yeah, so they annihilated the Razorbacks on defensively. This series, Doug, they haven't played that much. 33 for Georgia, 12 wins for Ole Miss, 1 tie. Now, Georgia, their scoring defense, 32nd in the country. I mean, scoring offense, 32nd, scoring defense, 13. Their passing, Doug, is 12th in the country. 12th in the country. Doug, 97th running the ball, Georgia. They're not very good running the ball. So they rely on that pass quite a bit. They're 28th in sacks, tackles for loss, 32. Turnovers, 82. Not so good on the turnover number. Kirby Smart said in the teleconference this week, when they're on the road, they want to be able to run the ball, protect the quarterback, and be physical on the offensive and defensive lines. Now, Ole Miss, Doug, we know they've made an improvement this year because they have the length and the size defensively through the transfer portal. That was one of the points of emphasis for Lane Kiffin. He said they were not SEC worthy at this point, but now they are, but they still have those 2 losses. They're 4th offensively in scoring, 6th in scoring for on the defensive side. The pass defense, Doug, this is not good facing Georgia. 91st in the country. So they're vulnerable there. Against the run, they're number 2. So Georgia, if they stuff Georgia's going to try to throw the ball. They might be successful. Ole Miss is number 2 in sacks, Doug, in the country, number 1 in tackles for loss. The turnovers are number 20. That's a good number. And Kirby made this statement when asked about Ole Miss, and we mentioned all those transfers and newcomers, that players make schemes better. We would all agree. Right?
Very simple.
We would all agree. And then the line of scrimmage, we mentioned, has been upgraded. Doug, I just want to mention the buys. Arkansas has the bye. They got to improve on the turnovers, and they have a lot of secondary issues as they gave up that 63 last week to Ole Miss. So they have trouble with their coverages, their blitzes, and they're just struggling. You have Auburn has a bye, Kentucky has a bye, number 14 Texas A&M has a bye, and that's it for this week in the SEC. Doug.
All right, well, let me round it off over here on the ACC. We got Florida State, who's 1-8. They are at number 10 in the country, Notre Dame, who is a one-loss team, AP. And you know how I feel about Marcus Freeman. He's a really good coach. He's got his team ready to play. They're ranked 10th in the country. They also find themselves in the college football playoff rankings, giving them potential to expand to the 12-man team. You know, they're trying to, everybody's vying for that position, AP. And I'm telling you right now, they're going up against the Seminoles. The Seminoles, they're looking really, really, really sputtery right now. And the head coach is kind of just taking it on the chin. He's saying that, hey, you know, this may be an opportunity for us to, you know, evaluate some other players, some younger players, and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's all about winning. It's all about getting to a bowl game. It's all about winning your conference. But they're struggling at this particular time. Now, on the flip side, Notre Dame, defensive back Xavier Watts, he's looking to he led the nation with 7 interceptions last season, and he's helping the Irish right now have a good defense. He's one of the catalysts of that defense. Now, he's been a bright spot, and Douglas has been a bright spot on the Seminoles team. He's got 25 catches for 404 yards, and, you know, he's got 3 TDs, and he's got 1 28-yarder. So there are some bright spots there for Florida State. But in terms of Florida State, they got another wide receiver by Malik Benson. Now, he's got Benson and Douglas. Both of them are transfers, AP, from guess what school? Alabama. Yeah. So Benson has 23 catches of the season. He has a nice 99-yard one, and that was against Memphis back in week 3. But you know what? They're going to have their hands full because Notre Dame has a freshman defensive back that has a lot of courage and a lot of skills, and he's having an impressive first season for Marcus Freeman. So he's broke into the lineup a few weeks ago when somebody got hurt. It's kind of like next man up. He's got 7 tackles right now, AP. He's got an interception to go along with that. So I'm looking for him to show up and show out on the bright stage against what would have been a phenomenal game traditionally, Florida State going against Notre Dame, you know, back in the day. So my prediction clearly is that Notre Dame is going to walk away with this one with a victory. Now, the game of the week, Miami versus Georgia Tech. Look, this game is going to be very interesting, AP. This is the game of the week. Number 4, Miami, 9-0, no losses, 5-0 in the ACC. Number 4 in the college football rankings. They are at Georgia Tech this week, AP. Georgia Tech is 5-4, 3-3 in the ACC. Last week brought some clarity to the ACC, AP, with the 4 undefeated teams in the league. They lost. That number 19 Clemson lost, number 23 Pitt lost. So it opens it up for other people to come in. Now, teams like the Miami Hurricanes and number 13 SMU, they're licking their chops, man. But look, we can't talk about Miami, AP, without talking about the Heisman hopeful Cam Ward. All season, this guy has been dominant, and we've talked about him all season as one of the magic people in the back, like a Doug Flutie Hail Mary. He makes it happen. I saw him watching film on him last week. I mean, the guy just thought he was going to be sacked, and again, abracadabra, down the field. The defender tipped the ball. The wide receiver, they had 2 wide receivers in the end zone. One of them caught it. It was just like, really? This guy? Hey, if you're a winner, man, you're just a winner, and positive things happen to you, man. So, AP, guess what? Miami's wide receiver, Xavier Restrepo, he's been the recipient, the beneficiary, I should say, of all of this razzle-dazzle that's going on in Miami. Man, that talented wide receiver, he's got over 856 yards right now. So Georgia Tech, they posted a nice win over Florida State, over in Ireland a long time ago. I thought they were going to rock and roll and be all good and everything, and now they just kind of fell off the map. My take on this game, AP, is that it's going to be a statement game for Miami to really show the world that they are the team that they have to contend with in the college football playoffs. Now, my other game, AP, is Pitt. Pitt is 7-1. Now, they're coming off a loss. Guess who they lost to? They lost to SMU. Yeah. So that's one of those teams that I said I had a good feeling. I got a good feeling about the energy of the head coach and all of that. So anyway, Pitt, look, their hopes of reaching the ACC championship is serious. These guys, they lost to SMU, but that loss perhaps is the fuel that they need in order to continue to keep their momentum going. Now, the key matchups in this game, AP, is going to be Virginia's linebackers versus the running back, Desmond Reed. AP, you're going to love this. Look, Reed is averaging 156 all-purpose yards per game, right? He's just as good at wide receiver. Now, that's him running the ball. Now, you talk about him being a wide receiver, he's got 385 yards receiving. Now, so he's got 102 carries for 590 yards. I mean, you talk about all-purpose. Hey, I'm thinking of a few NFL teams that would love Andy Reid, that would love to have somebody like that type of player that can play all of those positions, misdirection and all of that stuff. Also, Virginia, on the Virginia side, they have a 6'4" senior. He's third in the ACC in receiving with 654, Malachi Fields. Now, if the key to this game is going to be if the offensive line can block for the outstanding quarterback, Anthony Calandria. If they can do that and he can find some time to find Fields out there in space, then Fields will have a field day out there. No pun intended. So I'm looking forward to a sensational week of college football. AP, just like you, I have a few buys for this week. Louisville, who beat Clemson. I was at that game, of course. That was a great victory, again, for my guy, Ron English, who leads the defensive strategy and the schemes at a high level over there. He's got a handful of good defensive players for Louisville. And so I think that this is a good chance for them to have a bye and get some rest and get ready for their next opponent. Now, the other bye that I have is North Carolina and SMU. Of course, they beat Pitt. So when you beat an undefeated team, man, you deserve a bye, man. Get a week off. Yeah. And then Stanford, my old guy, my old teammate, Troy Taylor. He's going to have his team resting up this week. Then that's all we got, AP.
Hey, that's another great edition of AP and VP SEC ACC conference coverage. And we'll see y'all next week and have fun at the stadium and root for your team. And we'll be back next week. See you, DP.
Take care, AP.